me see, because I need to publish and let people know. Hey, listen, we're live.
Oh yeah. So Flame has a little bit of publishing work to do. This is what he does before any stream. Announce on Discord, announce on YouTube, and put all of the titles and thumbnails and tags, which I did previously. So it's a team effort, everybody. Sadly, it's a little bit weird because I feel like I'm talking to myself because I cannot see any of the goddamn chat. So I'm hoping there's some of you out there, and I'm not talking all by myself like a goddamn TV. But yeah, we do have the new wrap-up show today, and boy, do we have things to talk about. Mainly today, we're going to focus on the big buffs. Because there were big buffs for a lot of the specs. Some of them we were expecting to get buffed.
Sure.
There's also a couple of nerfs as well. We're not going to address those because, again, if we're going to have the time, we're going to focus on the nerfs as well. But our main topics
Main topic of discussion.
Yeah, will be the buffs. Focus on what you're doing there. Stop interrupting yourself.
I'm breathing
with also,
my face.
Hopefully we get some time to talk about the pre-patch experience. We have a lot to say on that department, which I'm sure you guys have a lot to say as well. What else? The new affix. We didn't get to test the new affix today because it was all about pre-patch, and Flame, I think, pretty much played on live with the pre-patch with his
very
mage.
salty mage experience. That's
what I can say.
Tied to the pre-patch.
We've been through this so many times. It's like
you always think it's gonna be different this time, right?
Yeah, but now I'm talking about the balance in pre-patch. You can never trust balance on pre-patch. You never make any assumption on what's happening in pre-patch because pre-patch numbers are always fucked up. There's always going to be classes that are going to do gazillions of damages, and there's going to be classes that will be shite. So
the gazillions of damages, yeah, for sure.
All right, so how we're looking? I can see 2 notifications on the stream. Yeah,
I mean, everybody should know that we are live. Both streams are currently functioning. YouTube is strong with 30 people currently watching us. Hello, YouTube. Welcome, welcome.
Hello. And welcome to Wrap Up, episode 8. This is episode 8. It should have been 9, but there was a week of pause. So we're back at it. We're covering everything that we think was important during the last week. It's mostly what was posted yesterday with the new beta build. But there's still a lot of topics to handle here. If you're new to this, which I'm pretty sure you're not, but just in case you are, remember you can catch the show every Thursday on both YouTube and Twitch. It's 10 a.m. PST on US and 7 p.m. GMT, was it?
In toilet bowl.
Yeah, so yeah, those are the hours. Also, if you want to see the full thing, you'll have it on the YouTube channel, the Marcelian Online channel. If you want to see clips of it, you have our second channel, Marcelian&Flame, and there's also going to be a bunch of produced videos on Marcelian Online, with properly, footage and editing and all of that. Now, with that out of the way, shall we kick it off?
Let's kick it off. Oh, also, we won't be able to, go into the questions, anything that you guys have.
Yeah.
I think Arja is our lovely. Not official yet community manager that's going to pick up all of your questions. So if you have something that you want us to address, like, legit questions, stuff like that, after we've, covered all of the stuff, we're just going to go over it at the end. Yeah.
If you have questions for us, make sure to throw them in the comment section, chat section, whatever. RJ will pick it up. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're firing it up. All right. Now this is the supreme test. See if the audio is still working. Yeah, it's still working on mine.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah.
It's not working on my end though. So let's see if people. Hey, Mokti, can you still hear the audio now?
I'm getting audio feed, so we're good. Hopefully. I mean, technically we're good.
It's so weird. It's so weird. We have the microphones here.
You have the riffles like. Where's?
Yeah. A bunch of black schlongs in the back of our backs. All right, let's talk about hero talents, and it's all about demon hunters because, well, Fel Scared Havoc was.
Oh, we know that Havoc demon hunters were kind of struggling going into the war within because there was a lot of doom in the community that we were able to see, and we get it because Fel Scared is the cool kid on the block and it was doing shit. And I mean, you know, it's not a I told you so moment, but we kind of said, listen, guys, it's gonna happen. It might take a little bit longer, but there's gonna be buffs. It's not gonna be too
Let's
destabilized.
get
So,
into it. Let's blabble, blabble, blabble. Let's get into
blabble
it.
it.
First of all, so for Fel Scared, right, we have Demon Surge damage increased by 80%. Burning Blades damage over time effect increased by 50%. Even like reading this from the get-go, you know how messed up Fel Scared Havoc was. Enduring Torment now grants 10% increase Chaos Strike and Blade Dance damage. It was 5%, and 5% haste, that was 3%. Student of Suffering bonus mastery effect increased by 50%. I'm not sure about mastery on Havoc, but we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Flame Bell now grants 40% increased critical strike damage bonus for Immolation Aura. That used to be 30%. And Monster Rising now increases agility outside of demon form by 8%, was 5%. So judging by these, can we look at Fel Scared to finally be competitive and, not have Eldrachi, win all departments?
I mean, it's buffs, so buffs are essentially what they're needed. I think we need
You
some,
think it's buffs, Flame? Does it look like a plus there?
It's increased. I heard that's what increased means. We'll probably need some logs, some actual testing. I'm sure people are already doing it on the beta as well. I happened to catch Gdith talking a little bit about Havoc as well. And there was one thing that he mentioned that isn't mentioned here, which is probably very big, is that the Demon Surge, the blast and all of that stuff, damage events are going to be buffed by inertia, which is something that I assumed was already working, but it wasn't working. So that means that when you play Fel Scared and you do your little empowered things, you'll want to pair them up with momentum style mechanical windows, which will obviously elevate the gameplay to some really cool, complex rotations, I would imagine. But all of it is good so far.
Complex. And also, this is another thing, like all the non-hero talent ability damage is increased by 13%. This is for the Havoc
Yeah,
spec
because even if you played the Eldrachi, the Eldraku, hero talent tree, you were still a little bit more behind the other specs, unfortunately. So it's good to see that overall Havoc has been increased. I don't know what the performance of it in raids was, but in dungeons.
I haven't seen that many. I'm sure a lot of people tested it. We haven't seen it too much in the raids, but we have seen it a lot in dungeons. And I don't think, like, for folks who are playing the Eldrachi hero talent, I think the performance in the dungeons was pretty good, pretty on par with some of the rest of the specs. I haven't seen any Fel Scared having Demon Hunters, to be fair, to compare it. And if by chance you get to play it tomorrow,
I will
maybe see how it looks.
Definitely want to try it as well, because the last time I played Fel Scared was like in a +2 to 3. It did damage, but if I would have played at the same time some Unholy and some Frostdk, I would have been so very sad. So it's good, but this goes to show, like, we do want to say this enough, because I think we still don't say this enough. Don't look at beta numbers and just draw your conclusion on your main or alt. If you like the spec, just play it, because it's very likely that the balance will eventually come. The pre-patch is already out, and we're still seeing tuning, and it's likely not going to stop for another 3 weeks at the very least. And since, what is it, Season 1, at least Mythic Plus launches like a month after the release, so they've confirmed
pretty
that.
much a couple of weeks.
So that's probably going to be a month with still tuning happening. So it's going to be fine. They want the hero talents to be balanced, a balanced choice between the two. I don't know if they said it in an interview or in one of those blogs that they did at the beginning. They said that they don't want for the hero talents to become, this is your raid hero talent and this is your Mythic Plus hero talent. So they want to balance it so that you don't feel like you have to do your force into one. It's never going to be equal. It's never going to be the same.
Perfect, yeah.
But it's not going to be like, oh my god, I have to re-roll. That's no.
No. I think the main situation with the hero talents, at least philosophically, is for them to like provide the flavor and where it can alter a little bit the gameplay. But I think the Mythic Plus / single target situation is more introduced in the spec talents, right? So this is why they want to stray away from like making any changes that would make a favorite out of a hero talent more than the other, depending on the gameplay environment or context. So I think it's a good start, and
it's definitely. It's just pick the cool, not pick the number. That's probably what they're going for, and this is one of the best examples. Even after people have said, dude, we're just so close to release, we need the most accurate version of the live game as possible. So
Yeah,
we're getting
and we're happy for the demon hunters, right? We love when things like this happen.
because now they can suffer in silence.
Well, they suffer because suffering is part of their thing, right? They're blind and they suffer a lot. That's why they're so angry and chaotic. But we also have on the table some long-awaited hunter buffs. Specifically, we've complained about Dark Ranger forever, and we were not the only ones for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Dark Ranger, I still feel is one of the biggest misses in terms of like the fantasy of what that could have been.
For sure.
And at least in terms of numbers, they're trying to bring it back up and give that option to be a possibility.
The numbers, to be fair, this is one of those examples where numbers is probably not going to save the hero talent from or elevate it to like Diabolus for Warlock or Spellslinger for Arcane Mage, where it's like, oh my god, look at this shit, I'm playing it right now, right? That's not gonna do it. But the ridiculousness of these being like trinket procs.
You will see, I mean, you can already see it on the screen, right? So for the Dark Ranger, we have Black Arrow damage increased by 100%. Can you imagine how fucked up? And I know Black Arrow was like shit damage.
I don't even remember what percentage it was of my overall. That it was that low.
It was super low, and I'm not sure this is gonna make it super impactful. But again, when you see 100%, they fucked up when they did the initial tuning iteration.
For sure, this is one of those things where, okay, if you're going to make this like bland, boring, and passive, at least make it so that when something of it happens, you can see it.
It's
and obviously,
impactful.
You'll need details for it, unfortunately, because it's wow. But at least like, oh my god, I just pressed Black Arrow. Look at me going up the ranks in my DPS meter. At least that. Give me at least that.
Yeah. Shadow Surge damage increased by 50%. This is again, it's pretty clear that was pretty ish. Dark Hounds now auto attack as shadow damage. Withering Fire now fires a 4th arrow. The arrows are slightly more staggered time-wise from each other. Overshadow now increases damage of affected abilities by 20%. That was 15%. So Dark Ranger saved. Likely not. It's the first iteration in I would say, good couple of next iterations. I'm pretty sure there's still much more to be gained until you get a properly competitive Dark Ranger hero talents for Marksman and then Beast Mastery.
It's definitely something that's needed. Like the numbers are gonna I don't think I've even seen a marksmanship play Dark Ranger on beta as much as we've
because
tested
it was shipped.
So it's kind of hard to grasp the value of the buffs. There's definitely buffs that need it. I honestly think that there might still not be enough, but it's one place to start. So it's great that they're addressing it. Might make it interesting. I'm curious to see how much Shadow Surge will impact your overall rotation, since it's one of those iffy talents where it rewards you from using multi-shots, and you kind of just want to use multi-shot as an enabler. So hopefully it doesn't turn into like, oh, I'm just going to spam multi-shot that way, because it doesn't work for marksmanship. But I don't know if we're there just yet.
Not yet, but we do have a, I would say, small nerf here for Sentinel on marksmanship.
Probably expected.
Yeah, Symphonic Arsenal damage is reduced by 25%. This was expected nonetheless. I guess like similar to what happened 2 weeks ago with DKs, they're slowly trying to buff, the other talent trait, the other hero talent, and nerfing a little bit, well, pieces by pieces, the other ones that were super performing, just to bring them in line. Still believe Dark Ranger needs a lot more love. But let's go into the specs, shall we? Because we have marksmanship here.
All right.
Wind arrows now fire after you cast aim shot rather than during the cast. Many issues with wind arrows falling to fire or breaking have been resolved. There was bugs there.
Okay.
Rapid fire cooldown between procs of wind arrow has been reduced to 0.2 seconds. It was 0.5 seconds. So cooldown reduction for rapid fire between those.
That's good. Wind arrow is probably just like quality fixes. Like I have no idea what any of those mean, but it's likely stuff that just make them work well. Because they've actually, I don't know if we're gonna have time to go over all of the patch notes, but they fixed a lot of the things that weren't working properly with a lot of the specs. I assume this is part of it when it comes to wind arrows and how they function.
Yeah, but this is important because you want to do that damage in the proper way and making sure it's no bug. Sure. And you want to know that you're not doing damage because of a bug. So whenever they're addressing this, it's pretty good. Also, survival got some nerfs. Wildfire bomb damage reduced by 5%, and flanking strike damage reduced by 5%.
It's fine. It's actually, funnily enough, not as big as the TK nerfs, but survival is was doing pretty well, and I mean, it was been broken on live. You might have noticed as well. So if you're coming, because we've had people ask us that question. That's not the actual survival numbers. But I think, it's like you said, they probably have like a scale. It's like, oh, this is too low. We're just kind of trying to get them as just right.
Yeah. I think the big banger here is that they're finally addressing Dark Ranger. Hopefully
sure.
they'll address Dark Ranger.
We might have like 1 or 2 more weeks of tuning for Dark Ranger for sure.
Oh, don't worry, man. You know they're tuning the shit even after the season starts. So it's all Gucci.
Most likely.
But what do you know? We have some buffs for Feral. Now, listen, you can cough in whatever direction you want. That microphone will follow your ass.
Oh, really? I thought it was like if I turn away out, it's not going to pick it up so much. God damn, the microphone is too good. Fucking hell.
Okay, let's check out the Druid. So there's a couple of things that were reverted. Well, these were basically the heal situation we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, this is for tanks. We don't have to go through all of the tanks, but pretty much all tanks that had any kind of sustain.
They got fucked.
They were enough for the tanks, but they were subsequently enough for the entire class. But that's not really good. So they've reverted back, but still kept the nerfed version for the tanks and the buffed version for the non-tanks, which is what we're seeing here.
All right, Druid of the Claw. This is for Feral and Guardian, right? Bestial Strength now increases ferocious. That's how you say it, bastards. Ferocious. Ferocious by damage by 8%. This was 5%, and now increases rampant ferocity damage by 8%. For Feral, ravage damage dealt to other enemies in front of you is increased by 25%, and dreadful wound damage increased by 10%. I'm smelling bleeds.
This is basically the Druid of the Claw, yeah, for sure.
Everybody in the moment was playing Wildstalker, right? There was not too many playing Druid of the Claw.
There's not too many playing Ferals to begin with,
the ones that were playing.
I felt way better playing Wildstalker. I felt like I was also doing more damage as Wildstalker, but Druid of the Claw is actually picking up some steam recently.
Okay, let's go directly for Feral here, because there's a lot. So for Wildstalker specifically, Bloodsucker Vine's damage is reduced by 10%, Bursting Growth damage is increased by 30%, and Bond with Nature increases healing you receive by 4% was 3%. Okay, let's check out the notes here for Feral. So the developers note, we're increasing Feral's damage overall, especially against multiple targets, and moving some of their damage out of Ferocious Bite and into other sources like Bleeds and Builders. Haven't we talked about this last time?
Yes.
Yes, this is the main problem both of us had with the iteration of Feral in the World Within. Was like the talent tree was so much focused on super ferocious by damage, and it felt it was dripping away, melting away from that bleeding damage we got to love from Feral. And seeing this, we love it.
Especially after they took away Tear Open Wounds that would, incentivize you to spam Primal Wrath. That was gone. Yep. So, and there was a lot of Ferals. We've been in this situation with Shadowlands having very bite-focused Ferals, and everybody's like, "But give me back my bleeds, right?"
Yeah.
So this is good.
We love bite. We love big ass bites from Ferals, but man, there's something so rewarding when those bleeds start ticking and you can see the rotting damage. It's different from an Affliction Warlock, mind you, and kind of different from an Assassination Rogue as well. But let's get into it. So first of all, Rip damage is increased by 10%. Rampant Ferocity's damage is increased by up to 100%. It was 50% when players spent extra energy to Ferocious Bite. We talked about this earlier today, right? This is the talent where you do damage to other targets.
If you bite a target with Rip, all targets with Rip get the extra damage. And this is specifically addressing the, when you Ferocious Bite above 50 energy, you do bonus damage. That bonus damage is now increased by 100%
beautiful,
instead of 50.
and it's all around, so they are buffing the AoE. Taste for Blood increases Ferocious Bite damage by 12%. This used to be 15%, so again, moving that incentive away, and an additional 12%, it was 50% during Tiger's Fury. I love to see it. If they're buffing the bleeds and reducing or small nerfing the predators, the Ferocious Bite effects from wherever they are, I'm fine with that. What else? Apex Predator's chance to proc against multiple targets increased slightly. Shred, Swipe, Brutal Thrash, Lunar Inspiration, Moonfire, and Rake initial damage all increased by 30%.
So a big chunk.
I love it. Because I don't know, man. Sometimes there's this fantasy about Feral Druid where instead of you trying to stick to your target all the time, you make sure you put bleeds on everybody, you snapshot it with some nice buffs, some Tiger's Furies over there or whatever, and you see the magic happen. You see the damage going, right? This is beautiful as opposed to just farming for big bites. This is all I'm saying. So seeing this, once again, I'm a happy boy. What else? Berserk now increases all ability and auto attack damage by 15%. This was 10%. Berserk Frenzy now causes enemies to bleed for 150% of all direct damage dealt by combo point generic abilities. That was 135%. So even that got buffed. Beautiful. And my favorite here on the list, Primal Rat direct damage increased by 20%. I loved Primal Rat, and I loved using it in AoE, and I love the fact that you have an initial damage and then you have all of the other bleeds going through. It's beautiful. This is basically a instant hit when in AoE, and if that was hitting too weak, you didn't really felt right, even if like the bleeds, let's say, were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, sometimes the mobs just die too fast and you cannot really like make too much value of your bleeds.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've buffed this because that was essentially the whole purpose of the Terror Point Wound sound that they took away. If you Primal Wrath the target with Rip on it, it does more instant damage, so that was really great. And I was just looking at some of the damage breakdown of Ferals in dungeons. Feral was keeping up, well, this particular one, I'm looking at Feral keeping up with Unholy, which is a lot. So Feral isn't that shabby, we're just not seeing them because the people just don't play it. So the damage that they've received is actually pretty big, especially the 30% increase to the instant damage of Brutal Slash, Shred, and all of that stuff. That will probably add quite a bit.
You gotta love it, baby. You gotta love it. Also, Adaptive Swarm direct damage is increased by 20% for those who loved it. I never liked it.
No, I don't. It's so silly. It's funny because that was usually like a balanced druid type ability where you send bugs out, and they took it away for balance and resto, which were the two most likely to use that kind of ability.
They used it the most.
They left it for Feral. Like, what the fuck, man? Just give me some cat. Give me some Savage, Tiger, King of the Jungle abilities. But you know, that's a whole other story.
They wanted to test a different flavor with damage over time. You know, having bugs.
Probably, sure.
Which I don't know how that kind of correlates with any of Feral, whatever. All right, next on the table, we have to talk about mages because mages, I feel, are getting so much attention. It's ridiculous, man. Okay, let's talk about Frostfire hero talents. First of all, Frostfire has been updated to use Fire Mage's Living Bomb behaviors and now benefits from talents that affect Living Bomb. Excess Fire now applies Living Bomb at 75% effectiveness for Fire Mages. Now, they said, we're aware of an issue where Frost Mage's Living Bombs are also being cast at reduced effectiveness. This will be fixed in a future build. Sure. So, Living Bomb, Flame, that's what you are. You're a Living Bomb walking on the street.
That's the biggest compliment I've ever received, man. And the police don't seem to agree. But it's interesting that the Frost Mage will have better damage from Living Bomb, but that's probably because of scaling. I think Living Bomb will probably still scale better for Fire Mage because it's a Fire Mage ability.
It's a fucking Living Bomb. It's not like a Living Icicle.
Yeah, for sure. But what's good is that they're addressing the damage profile of these two specs individually, where we've had problems before with hero talents where they've addressed like a generic ability that affected the most specs, but it would affect the specs differently. So one spec would have to be the loser just because it had to be balanced for the other one. So it's good that they're taking the effects individually and keeping them balanced so that Frost doesn't lose out just because Fire Mage was doing too much damage with Living Bomb, I think.
But you want to talk about Spellslinger?
Oh, everybody wants to talk about Spellslinger.
This is just for Frost and Arcane, okay? So we're gonna shut up the Fire Mages for now, all right? Let's see. Emmed Splinter's maximum stack count reduced to 8 until Splinter Storm is learned. Yeah, you better learn that. Controlled Instincts no longer has damage variance. Controlled Instincts damage is now kept at 5 targets and no longer splashes. Boo-hoo!
I like the splash.
Volatile Magic now correctly damages the primary target having its Emmed Splinters removed. Volatile Magic now deals 1 instance of damage that scales based on the number of stacks removed. Now there's a note here, the changes to Controlled Instincts and Volatile Magic are being made to help reduce the number of damage events and increase performance in high target scenarios. So they're basically helping you to not lag.
Yeah, and not have like, I mean, I legit heard people like that, like they were lagging out, and I can only imagine how this would be in raids with like 2 Arcane Mages out there.
Okay, we also have Frost Splinter damage increased by 100%.
decided they had to do it.
Okay, you'll develop more
Sure.
because you play a lot of it. And Frost Splinter damage increased by 100%. Frost Splinter Snore damage increased by 100%. Jesus effin' Splintering Orbs Arcane Orb now only grants 2 splinters per target hit. This was 4. Please comment.
Yes, so Frost Mage was getting a lot less damage from Spellslinger as much as compared to Arcane. I mean, we've tested that last week. You would have seen it if you caught our stream. And having everything being double now just shows how off and how behind Frost was for Spellslinger. And obviously the Arcane Orb only granting 2 splinters instead of 4 is a nerf to Arcane Mage. I think that's probably fine. What the cool part about Spellslinger for Arcane is all of the procs that you would get, not necessarily the damage, but the damage is also great. But it's nice that they are actually keeping the damage in check and they're addressing, because this, oddly enough, Spellslinger is probably one of the most complicated hero talents to balance properly, considering it has so many things that it works with on there. I've heard that there were so many bugs with this. I don't know if all of them were fixed, but it's looking like this is the fattest chunk of class changes so far.
What about Sun Fury? Because we have to talk about
They
fire
need to
as
buff
well.
this. Is this buffed? Because I cannot see.
Okay, let's see. Burden of Power now increases the damage of Arcane Blast by 30%. It was 15%.
Good.
What do you know? Phoenix non-exceptional spell damage increased by 20%. Phoenix Greater Pyro Blast damage increased by 30%. Phoenix Arcane Surge damage increased by 100%. Should we all just quit WoW and let the mages play?
Oh my god. Sun Fury was probably something that drew people's eyes out the most because, you know, it's
Yes.
Kel'Thas, I
Sun
summon
Fury.
the Phoenix.
Of course, yes.
But after they played Spellslinger, they're like, fuck Sun Fury. But now, Sun Fury was actually underperforming compared to Spellslinger, I think for both Fire and for Arcane. Once again, we're seeing, well, the Arcane version of Sun Fury was buffed with Arcane Surge doing double the damage. And obviously the Fire Mage as well for 30% more damage on Greater Power Blast, which is great because we know that there were the talent that essentially let your Phoenix cast more exceptional spells was bugged for a long time, so they fixed that as well. So now, when you get your Phoenix out, you should be able to feel it, and that would be great. I don't know how this will affect the visuals, because it still happens, you know, like right next to you, there's so much going on with Fire, you don't even see your bird just casting better spells than you are, basically.
I love the Phoenix popping up all over the place, and I'm happy to see once again that they're finally doing this. They're finally looking at non-performing hero talents and bringing them up. And once again, Sun Fury was the bay until everybody understood that Spellslinger was where it's at. Well, now not the case. I cannot wait for you to test that out on the screen.
You and me both.
But listen, it doesn't stop here. We also have some proper spec changes here, and we're gonna kick it off with Arcane Mage. So, Mr. Arcane Pleasure
yes.
Boy, Arcane damage reduced, Arcane Barrage damage reduced by 65%.
Yeah, but read the next one.
Arcane Barrage damage increase per Arcane Charge increase to 90% was 30%.
I think this is mostly an adjustment.
Yeah.
This has been talked in the Mage community for a while. I think there was a problem with how the damage was scaling for Arcane Barrage, so they're essentially addressing that, which is what you're seeing right here.
Okay, Arcane Blast damage increased by 10%. Concentration now procs 3 times per minute was 2. You gotta love that. Arcane Echo now has a 0.2 second cooldown between procs. Arcane Echo damage increased by 25%. Well, this is not really nerfed.
Well, they nerfed Arcane. They nerfed Arcane like 3 weeks ago. I think after it was like, oh my god, Arcane meta, Arcane OP, we're gonna see Arcane
a little bit
MDA.
crazy.
Everybody shut their pants for like 2 days, and then it was nerfed, and I'm like, fuck, Mage is dead, because that's, you know, the bipolar reaction of the community, which is funny. So now they're kind of buffing. The buffs are good, particularly the Arcane Blast, because it was actually a DPS loss to cast Arcane Blast sometimes in single target, which was weird. So that's great to see that. Plus the Arcane Barrage having less upfront damage but scaling more with Arcane Charges makes it so that you don't cast naked Arcane Barrages just because the dynamic between Arcane Barrage and Arcane Blast and Echo was probably skewed too much in favor of Barrage, which is great. And we're also seeing more adjustments to bring Arcane back to maybe a little bit behind Frost Decay and not so far behind
Frost Decay?
That was, you know, the killer in beta that everybody kept talking about for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Mokti was talking as well about Frost.
Everybody losing their mind. Well, not anymore, not anymore.
Well, let's check out Fire for a change, because I feel the nerfs are coming. The nerfs, I'm pretty sure Fire is gonna get the nerf hammer. Pyroblast damage increased by 5%. Phoenix Flame damage increased by 10%. Fireball damage increased by 20%. Flame Strike damage increased by 10%. Quick Flame Strike damage bonus increased increased to 25%. That used to be 20%. Flame patch damage increased by 30%. Living bomb damage increased by 100%. I give up. Why? Was fire
I don't see the nerfs, man. Where the nerfs
I
at?
know. I was just trolling. Was fire in need of this?
I don't know if these many buffs, but Fire was underperforming a little bit compared to the, But this is weird
What
because
what are we comparing it with?
exactly, because we have such a huge dynamic in people's performance on beta because we don't know exactly where it's supposed to be. Because on one hand, you have Frost Decay and Unholy who are just like destroying everything, and on the other hand, you have BM Hunters who are just crying in the corner. And we don't know where the balance is. Are we all supposed to do as much damage as the Death Knights, or are we all supposed to do like something in the middle, right? So judging by the class changes and looking at the Fire as well, it's probably closer to the DKs and not as much nerfs as you think, considering how the content scales and what kind of damage you need to actually clear, I guess, Mythic Plus, because that's what we've been testing so far, to clear them in time. It's looking like the damage was probably needed, and we're probably going to keep seeing classes being buffed to get closer to the Death Knights level, and the nerfs that you might expect from, I say Death Knights, but pretty much everybody at that level are probably going to be very tiny to keep the balance somewhere around the higher end of the spectrum, I would imagine.
Well, I guess that makes sense. We have a couple of more changes to Fire here. I'm just gonna go past the developer notes and just stop here. So all talents that affect Lit Fuse's proc rate have been reduced by 50%. This is Lit Fuse, Explosive Ingenuity, and Explosivo.
That's such a cool talent to say.
Yeah, Explosivo.
Just to mention really quick while we've skipped the developer notes, they want fewer living bombs, but bigger living bombs. They want you to feel the meat. Reduce the frequency of damage events like they did for Arcane, but just make them bigger.
And I love that. I love that concept. Okay, Explosivo's living bomb damage increase during combustion reduced to 40%, was 50%. Talents and grant guaranteed living bomb gain a lot of power from these changes, so we're adjusting them to compensate. It's pretty logical. Deep impact's cooldown reduction is reduced to 10 seconds. It was 15 seconds. Living bomb is now target capped at 8 targets and no longer splashes. Well, I guess they're reducing. They're helping with your lag, Flame. That's what they're doing. Living bomb visual effects now have reduced fidelity in raid groups. Told you, man. They don't want that lag, baby.
those ad fights. Yeah. But I'm
similar
confused.
to what happened to Arcane as well. So they're kind of limiting the target count.
I mean, you have to admit that Mage is kind of like a disco spec. Like
it is.
Things are happening on your screen all the time. What I'm curious about is I do want to understand that if the living bomb is now target cap, but it no longer splashes, does it mean that it doesn't splash past 8 targets, or doesn't splash at all? Meaning that every single target is just damaged by its own living bomb? That's what I need to know, because it could read either way.
It's a good question.
So we'll probably need to test that out to see exactly how it is, or probably the Mage community has an answer already, but we'll see.
Okay, we also have some Frost situation here.
Yes, please.
Yes,
give me Frost buffs, baby, let's go.
This is nerfs all over the board. I can already see it. So, Iceland's damage increased by 10%. Glacial Spike damage increased by 10%. Flurry damage increased by 12%. Blizzard damage increased by 50%. Frozen Orb damage increased by 10%. Comet Storm damage increased by 10%. Splintering Ray of Frost damage increased by 30%. This was 25%. Splitting Ice Lance damage to nearby enemies increased to 90%. This was 80%. Cone of Cold damage is increased by 100%. So Frost Mage was already looking pretty fine. I think with this, it's gonna be
on the beta. Was behind the other two, as far as I know. The buffs are pretty good. The Con of Cold is like whatever. Nobody does any damage with Con of Cold. That's pointless. You just use it to activate things.
Well, if you use it, if it's gonna have more damage, then it's.
I foresee the Splitting Ice buff to be particularly juicy with 10% more cleave damage, especially in fights. I haven't seen all of the raid fights. I believe we probably have a council fight where Splitting Ice would probably be really good. Same thing with Ray of Frost. Comet Storm was a big chunk in your AoE, so that's really great. You're probably going to be enjoying the AoE. What's interesting is the Blizzard damage increased by 50%. Blizzard is not, it's okay. It's kind of like
it did okay damage.
Yeah, but it was never like, oh my god, I'm casting Blizzard, I feel great. So I would love to go back to a time where Blizzard was like, oh my god, look at all that damage. Because you would think for a company like Blizzard would have the spell Blizzard being the best damage source for your mage. But we'll see how it turns out.
All right. So this is for the mages. Again, I think mages got like the biggest notes
as
once
always.
again.
Surprising anybody? I don't think so.
Not really. But lo and behold, we have a rogue situation here. I'm not sure they fixed all of the bugs necessarily, but we have some buffs all around. So let's let's kick it off with hero talents. Well, for Fatebound, this is for Assassination and Outlaw, which I don't like Fatebound. I'm just gonna say it out of the get-go. Hand of Fate's Heads effect now grants 10% increased damage on its first flip. It was 3%. So you can imagine how bad this was. For Trickster, this is what I played on my Subtlety. For Outlaw, Nimble Fury now increases Blade Flurry damage by 20% while active. This was 15%. And for Subtlety, Nimble Flurry now flurries 50% of noted ability damage while active. This was 40%. Now I didn't feel Subtlety was that lack of... I felt like the damage of Subtlety was pretty much normalized. I felt like Unholy Decays and Arcane Mages were a little bit too crazy with the damage. And not going to mention here the tuning for the dungeons. So these look like small buffs, at least for Subtlety and Outlaw. But I think the biggest problems were not necessarily the damage, but the bugs, specifically for Trickster with the Coup de Grace, I believe it's the capstone for it. Which its animation is kind of triggered. This is what Fu told me. Its animation used to be the one from Death from Above, and they removed that, but they kept the timing from it.
Oh, so that's why you
this
cannot
is why
do
it's
anything.
GCD locked, basically. And it's so frustrating. And so there's two major bugs from, at least for Subtlety and Outlaw. The Outlaw is the not Blade Flurry. Jumping all around with the
Killing
target.
Spree?
Killing Spree, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's the one thing. And for Subtlety was the GCD lock for, well, it's for Outlaw as well.
Didn't they make your Killing Spree kind of like a tank? You just take like super less damage? Wasn't that to address the issues?
It's not about that. It's the one of the problems is the fact that you still teleport all over the place, and even if you take less damage, your camera gets all messed up. And it's listen, you have to see it to understand. It's messed up. And also the GCD lock for Coup de Grace for both Subtlety and Outlaw. I'm not sure about Assassination, how much problematic that was, at least for Fatebound. But speaking of Assassination, we do have some buffs for it.
All right.
So we're gonna scroll right here. So Assassination, all ability damage increased by 4%. So this is a straight out 4% buff to everything. Auto attack damage increased by 10%. Hey man, you remember when you used to do white damage? Remember that term?
Good vanilla times.
Yeah, and Venom damage increased by 10%. I think this is good. And Crimson Tempest damage increased by 10%. I guess these last two are pretty interesting, and it's going to go probably a long way. Specifically, I feel like when you buff specs that rely much more on, bleeds and in Assassination's case, poisons and stuff, small buffs do tend to make a long way.
It depends how they scale. Yeah. I was looking
specifically for Crimson Tempest. But once again, Assassination wasn't doing that great necessarily. Small buffs from all across the board, but it's good.
Yeah, for instance, I was just looking at some breakdown damage from Assassination. The buffs are good. I don't know if they're... It's our secret language. The Envenom buffs are probably going to go into Caustic Spatter, so I don't know if... It sounds like Caustic Spatter has also... It's also going to be buffed by byproduct by you using Envenoms in your Caustic Spatter target. Crimson Tempest is, from what I can tell here, it's like 7% of your overall damage if you use it the way you use it, and that would probably be like at most a 1% increase in your overall AoE. It's not that bad, but I don't know if it's going to put Assassination on the map just yet. Auto attack is like whatever. What the fuck?
Yeah, you look at the auto attack damage. How's that looking?
It's 3%
oh,
to 4% of your overall damage
beautiful.
in the dungeon.
That's going to count. But let's check out Outlaw. So for Outlaw, all ability damage increased by 10%. Bigger buffs than Assassination. Flat damage,
Okay.
Auto attack damage increased by 10%. And you have to remember, auto attack damage for Outlaw is bigger than both of the specs.
Blade Flurry scales it, no?
Yes. Sinister Strike damage increased by 10%. Pistol Shot damage increased by 10%. Blade Flurry initial damage increased by 50%. Sleight of Hand additional chance for roll the bones to grant multiple effects increased to 15%. This was 10%. Ooh. Count the odds chance to grant a roll of the bones effect increased to 15% was 10%. So these are really good, but still waiting to see what's happening with Killing Spree.
Yeah, I don't know what's... Yeah, I've played a little bit Outlaw, so you probably have more experience than I do, but I was trying to find some Outlaw logs.
Nobody's playing it.
Nobody's
because you have to go for Killing Spree, and it's totally messed up. It's hard to to like pinpoint exactly how much this will impact Outlaw Rogues, specifically if they're not going to go and address the killing spree situation. However, when you look at numbers like these, you can obviously tell like right from the get-go, auto attack damage 10% and all ability damage 10%. That's going to go a long way for Outlaws. But also I think like the biggest impacts here are with the increased chances for roll the bones. You Outlaws know, like when you get those nice buffs and you know you get those sleight of hands and count the
when
odds.
they start to stack.
Oh man, it's a great feeling, and if you're gonna have the chance increase to those, it's great. However, I think Outlaw mates are still waiting for that goddamn killing spree. So up until that is getting fixed, there's nothing really great to add over here.
It's so weird because the assassinations that I'm seeing right now in beta are doing decent damage, so damage buffs are just gonna make it better as well. But I'm not seeing Outlaw, and Outlaw has actually been performing way below Assassination, so it makes sense.
I have a gut feeling Outlaw is going to be fine. It's going to be...
I think people just don't like, there's something missing for Rogues. I feel like it's like the feeling
it's the
that I get
hero
with
talents,
Warrior.
man. The hero talents are shit.
Damn,
This was a great miss.
The class is so good without the hero talent.
Yes. We also have subtlety. So again, auto attack damage increased by 10%, eviscerate damage increased by 10%, and black powder damage increased by 10%. And this is an interesting one for black powder because if you play trickster, you basically don't use black powder. You just use your single target finishers and you do AOE. That's how it works. There's a really
the blade,
cool,
the flurry thing.
Yeah, it's a really cool talent. I forgot the name of it, but it basically enables your
Nimble flurry. No, isn't that it?
I think that's
that was
the one,
also buffed.
Well, regardless if it was buffed, because of that, you never used black powder. You just used more or less your single target rotation and did amazing anyway. I have some clips of that whenever I had my shadow dance, and it works. You know, you stack up the macabre and all of that, and once you go with secret technique, eviscerates, all of that, that all goes on all targets.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it pumps, man. This is why I consider subtlety to be a main, because I love that playstyle. However, because it's trickster,
the fucking coup de grace, man.
You get the coup de grace when you're in your moment of glory. Up there, look at me.
It's like you're trying to play in the PC slash across. Yeah, like, just stop for a second, man. I was like, what the fuck, man? I was in it. I was in the zone.
Everything gets like grayed out, and it's like, what the hell I'm pressing? What the hell?
At least put the animation at the very least. Like,
it's waiting for that to be fixed. So,
Jesus, Rogues. But it's good because Rogues have been selling for too long, and people have been really dooming for good reasons.
Well, it's still not looking great because there's
something
bugs.
At least. There's something
There's something positive. Yes. Once again, huge bugs with the Rogues, hoping for those to come around shortly. So there's a lot more to go through into because there was a lot of class tuning and whatsoever. But we kind of picked what we felt were the biggest or the most, I would say, long overdue specs and classes. I was hoping for some bug fixes for Rogues, but sadly that wasn't the case. I've seen some bug fixes for I think Feral and Havoc. This was not the case here. Shall we talk about the new affix? Because this is, I don't know how they're going to do this, man. So we're getting a new affix to test out every 2 weeks at this point. And this is the Oblivion Mythic Plus. Okay, so in today's stream, Flame basically played pre-page. There was no beta gameplay.
We're gonna have it tomorrow for sure. Yeah.
Tomorrow we're gonna test it for sure. But at least we can see what it's all about. So are you paying attention?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah,
sure. Okay, so Oblivion Mythic Plus FX. Periodically, Xalatat will spawn 10 orbs that fire at the mobs. Players can intercept these orbs and gain a stack in buff that grant 2% mastery and 1% leech for 20 seconds. One player gives the buff to the whole party. This is again another typo. You see there? One player give the buff to the whole.
Yeah, it's what a selfless player, man. That doesn't sound like us.
If the orb hits the mobs, it instead takes 10% less damage per stack.
Ooh.
Now, this could.
I'm thinking of the situation where you have that dude that's next to the orbs and he's not picking them up, and they're like, dude, and they're like, just do it, man.
Oh, that's gonna happen. You better believe that's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen in Pugs. That one guy which is playing Mage for the first time, I think his name is Flame, and he's just like really focused on his weak cards and doesn't see the orbs, like.
Especially if he's playing Outlaw.
Oh my God, no shot, no chance.
We also have here the Shattered Essence and Void Essence here. So Shattered Essence By the essence of the Shattered Crystal, reduce the income damage by 10%. This affects stacks. This buff is applied when the projectile is well. Okay,
Oh
so
my
this
god,
is,
it stacks?
yeah, well, it stacks for us as well, I presume.
Well,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
what the enemies get, no? The damage reduction.
Yeah, so when those balls, because that Blizzard has some obsession with balls. We talked about this.
They're
So
never neglect them.
when the balls shoot the fire and nobody intercepts the fire, if that fire reaches the mob will take less damage per stack. So if you get multiple fires in that mob, he'll get stacks of damage reduction. Now, similarly, on the flip side, if you do intercept those fires that are being shot by the balls, it's Void Essence, absorb the essence from the dissolved Void Crystal, increasing the player's mastery by 2% and leech by 1% for 20 seconds, and this effect also stacks. So, for me, as an Unholy DK, I'm going to be really happy intercepting all of this because I'm going to get even more mastery.
Yeah.
And I love mastery.
But you know, there's we can actually probably, if you mute it, you can play the clip from your it's like 3 seconds long. It shows how the orbs fly to the target. It's about 3 or 4 at a time, and they come from everywhere. And there's a very good chance that the orbs might spawn in fire, so you might have to go into the
well,
bed.
that's to be expected. Okay, so we're looking at
They're really tiny. Just going into the boss now.
yeah, okay, I can see. So some people intercepted that.
They're kind of fast, so they're not impossible. It's so you know the second boss in Knockout Offensive.
Yeah,
They're way faster than that, and people miss those, and they're smaller than the ones in the boss in Knockout Offensive, and they still miss those.
Well,
so it's
gonna be very adventurous for sure. So I think by tomorrow's stream, we're gonna find out how juicy this is.
I feel like they're gonna nerf the damage reduction to like something like 5% probably. I think 10% is too much because if you miss like 2 or 3, you're done. That mob taking 30% damage reduction, that's like having shield wall up.
It's going to be some great adventures with this affix. There's also some quality of life improvements for the Void Bound.
Oh yeah, this is big.
What was it? It's basically it's that crit chance is being buffed even more to 30%. So Dark Prayer now boasts 5% damage every 2 seconds. It was 10% every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But grants 30% crit chance. It was 20% and 20% cooldown reduction. So
to the player. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you've played it, you know, because we've played it as well.
I don't remember because
it's the clone that spawns, and then the room gets filled with shit, and the clone remains in the shit, and you have to go away from it. That's the one. So now, we've accurately guessed. Now it follows the tank, which is great.
This is what we were expecting, to not have it like being spawned in some lone ass corner and everybody just
it didn't matter how much life it had or how many of them you had if they spawned, because you know the first boss in City where she has the little circle that you have to stay in and then fills the room with puddle and you have to keep moving.
I love that.
It always spawned
in the back in the puddle. Yeah.
So now being on the tank, that dungeon probably has a lot to do with that fact. The fact that also it buffs the boss less, because that's dangerous. Because on Tyrannical weeks, which is every week after like a +10,
I've
plus
seen
12,
that.
it's like it always overlaps with a boss mechanic that chunks the tank really hard. So you know the tank is gonna love this. So this is probably one of the biggest things that they did, which is really great.
Yeah, this is how the cookie crumbles when you have lots of different affixes on top of other affixes and mechanics from the dungeon. You're gonna get overlaps.
Yeah.
Righto. So next up, shall we talk about the pre-patch, Mr. Flame?
I thought like we did a couple of dungeons yesterday. So he played on his Unholy.
You're just gonna go there?
He played some Unholy, and I played some Mage, and I thought, oh my god, because I was looking Red Paladin's fucked up, Enhanced Mishama, we're gonna get to it, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm playing Mage. Listen, we're gonna get to it. Why I'm not glad I'm playing Mage anymore.
Well, let's put it on like this. So we've been through quite some pre-patch events in our time.
Sure.
Well, I'm mentioning in our time doing YouTube, because we've been through some pre-patch content prior to doing YouTube as well. I believe this is the shittiest and most problematic pre-patch launch I've ever encountered so far.
Definitely for me too, yeah.
You can talk about the fact that they didn't really test it that much. I mean, there was a PTR for it, very, very small window. It's pretty hard to get people to test PTR for pre-patch when you have the beta open as well. I guess, that's kind of a given. But even so, I would believe that folks from the Blizzard QA or, the internal test teams or whatever would have some sort of things to see and fix before launching this. And we have like a list here with the things that they're aware of. and things that I think both me and Flame and probably you have encountered after the pre-patch launch. I'm not talking about add-on issues because that always happens. I'm talking about all of the stupid shit that we weren't expecting. So when we're going to develop this, but first let's read what they're aware of.
Sure, let's go for it.
So for some players upon login, action bars 2 to 8 are unintentionally disabled on all characters. It felt like beta, dude.
Oh my god, dude.
Like I logged into all my characters, I hold one action bar. It's like, what? What? That's not the end of the world, but you don't expect that. I mean, that
sounds like such a silly bug, man. It's like, oh, you don't have action bars anymore. How did that get in there?
Yeah. Oh my god, somebody called somebody. Players in this state will have to manually re-enable any of your extra action bar through the options, gameplay action bars, pre-existing keybinds. The spell should display with the re-enabled action bars. I haven't had any issues with my keybinds, but I've heard some people complain that their keybinds were also messed up. So I hope you're not part of those.
I think we rated Sunshi today, and she said she went on her Beast Mastery and she was missing like 2 or 3 spells. So not only keybinds, they were missing spells. Like what? How? What?
Well, that can happen when you have like, talent reworks and some abilities are, becoming passive. Like, okay, for Unholy, for example, Unholy Blight is a passive now. You cannot really activate it. It was still on my bar, but it was grayed out. So who knows? But also, new characters, level 10 and below spells on the action bars may not save on logout. Speaking of,
dude,
imagine you're playing the game, you're getting accustomed to it. Oh shit, I gotta go feed the dog or whatever. Level 10, I log out, come back in, nothing there.
This is funny because this sounds like a private server issue, man. I've played my fair share of private servers before playing retail, and these are the type of issues that you would become accustomed to on private servers. It feels so silly to have them on retail.
It's weird, man. The same issue may cause some existing characters to have all spells wiped from the action bar on logout if they do not create a new loadout. We intend to fix these issues as soon as possible. Okay.
Oh man,
I
did not know about those. That's so funny.
There's a lot of class tuning and situations here. I'm not going to go through these. Let's just, because there's a lot of them. Okay, so they know they messed up. So here's the deal, though. This is not acceptable. Okay, you can probably expect for shit like this to happen when you launch a brand new expansion with all of its content.
Sure.
And listen, this expansion doesn't even have like a brand new feature in. I mean, if we're gonna be real here, let's have some real talk here. Hero talents are basically some extra talents on top of the existing talents. It's nothing new. It's no new technology for it to break the game.
You know what actually might be? The war bands might actually be a bigger feature that would fuck up the game because you would access the game database and spread across your character differently, and the syncing is probably the issue. I still agree that it's kind of not acceptable considering that they've had plenty of time to test this. They probably prioritized, maybe they didn't have time, whatever.
They prioritized the beta for sure.
If we are gonna have to play devil's advocate, it's just, sure, we can probably give them all the disclaimers like, listen, they did what they did, and then there was this like after a point we're paying the game. It's a 20-year-old live service game. Yes. We're paying premium price for the game, and after a point you have to say like, dude, come on.
No, it's totally unacceptable, and I will not stress this enough. They did not test this. They did not,
not properly.
The amount of testing they did for this was like minimal. There was the PTR for the pre-patch over there. It was for a very short while. And I'm not sure if they had like, I don't know, maybe 100 people over there because everybody was on the beta. That's the reality of it. And this is what I'm saying. If they do have like PTR for this and people aren't showing up, well, you better have like an internal team that's testing the fuck out of it and making sure that, basic stuff, man. Like you want players to come back to the game. Hey guys, the expansion releases in a month from now. Here is the new shit. There is the changes to it, pre-patch, whatever. Player comes back to the game, makes a new character or whatever, logs out to feed the dog, comes back in to play again, and then there's no spells on the action bars. This is ridiculous. You cannot have this, man. This is
a Raid Shadow Legends bug, man.
This is totally unacceptable, man. And yes, they have 20 years of experience of this. How you cannot tell me anything that would make the situation easy. Now we're not trying to like be overly negative about it. We managed to play yesterday, and we did play, and our experience was interesting. Especially Flame's experience was interesting because we did good. But
I did not know what was happening to the Mage. I did not know that Mage was bugged. I did not know that Ignite did half the damage it was supposed to do. I did not know that Arcane had a bug with Touch of the Magi that was also doing half the damage that was supposed to do, and clear casting wasn't proccing as intended. So that was a surprise there as well. Not to mention that I was kind of a little bit laughing at the paladins and the enhancements because haha, you guys didn't get your talents. It sucks to be you kind of thing. But then I was like, fuck, I got fucked too, and not in a fun way. But there was another thing that I wanted to point out that talk about this topic because it has been pointed out for good reason, and there's a side of this subject that people don't talk about as much, is that why are we supposed to test your game to make it out to live, right? Because that's not something that's supposed to be required
not
for
the
things to
pre-patch
work.
at least. I can understand
Pre-patch too, but also, and you know what? Maybe a live service game that's as big as WoW needs people to test, and there's no way around it, and you have to get your players to test it because there's so much internal testing that you can do in your house when you release it to the global servers, to everybody, to like hundreds and thousands of people. The things are going to change. But what needs to happen is what actually happened with Diablo 4 and what, because we've said this today on stream, if we're going to have to be understanding of Blizzard for the issues that can happen and for stuff to like, oh, listen, it's always going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast. It's how the live service game works. Please understand us. If we're going to have that human understanding, it has to come both ways, and it has to come from their end as well. And one of the things that they could do is enforce goodwill, like other games do, where, you know, oh, you can test our beta and pre-patch. I know it's sucky, I know it's buggy, and I know it sucks for us to have to ask you to test our game, a game that you're already paying for, but here's a reward for it. Here's some trader centers. Here's a unique transmog or a mog for everybody who participated in the beta testing. Because you know we've had this for Diablo 4. So it's not like even talking about a different game from a different company. They've had this in-house already. I feel like a lot of the issues with beta testing, pre-patch testing, and we didn't have enough people, we didn't have enough time to test things, could be fixed by like, okay, listen guys, I know you want to play your live keys, but if you help us test, you can get this awesome cool mount that's only available to beta testers and pre-patch testers. You'll be helping us a lot, and here's we show our gratitude back. I feel like that's missing. That if you're going to keep having these issues with every release, at least, you know, show some goodwill, show some consideration on the other side as opposed to just expecting it from the players.
Some goodwill hunting, or at least make the game as perfect as it can ever be. If your players are going to test the shit out of it. There's a flip side to that. You will have the people who would say, well, why do you incentivize that? Why don't you put that in the game for the players who are actively playing and don't need to bother testing?
Always gonna be...
There's going to be both sides of the spectrum, regardless. But WoW having the PTR, like they have the PTR from day one. So
yeah,
this
but
is
it wasn't like accessible,
now.
right? They had it there, but you couldn't log in from day one, could you? I thought it was pure like at least a couple
I
of
remember
weeks.
it was from vanilla.
They've added in the client, but I feel like you couldn't log into it for a very long time before they've enabled it. They said that we've had it for like 2 months or a month and a half, and then they said it like, oh, they announced it like the build is there, but you won't be able to access it until like the 20-something of...
Okay, let's say it was available from Burning Crusade. It's kind of an ingrained culture at this point with, you know, testing the PTR and stuff. And I guess even if you're not a content creator, you're curious and you want to see how things look and stuff. And that sense of being part of it kind of means something for a lot of people, I'm guessing. But back to the topic at hand, this is unacceptable. Dude, you cannot tell me that the talent builds that you put in for paladins and shamans are intended. Get the fuck out. I mean, we've been through like the cycles of beta and complained about talents. They fixed those talents and then they put it in the pre-patch and said, no, that's intended, guys. No, how does that make any sense?
It's clear that they've had the pre-patch beta build for like at least a week old before the beta was actually updated, because you can see, so Red aside, Enhancement Shaman has had a couple of talent changes that they've addressed during 2 weeks. The first week, after the rework, they've added the pathway from Flurry to, I think it's elemental weapons or something like that. They added the pathway connection down. And the week after that, they've reduced the node cost of Molten Assault, and was another one. And actually, there's 2 more, and they reduced it to 1 point from 2 points. But that change didn't make it into the pre-patch, which means that the pre-patch build that they had, they somehow, I don't know how this works on their end. They probably copy-pasted the database or some part of the database from Enhancer Shamans, but they didn't update it because they had it ready a week in advance, which I guess that's fair. But don't tell me that this was intended. Just say, listen, guys, the way the patching works is we're going to be a build behind. It's fine. Things are going to keep evolving on beta that cannot be updated for live servers as well. Fine. Just be honest, man. Just be like, listen, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't think they fucked up. I think they knew that this was going to happen ahead of time, but just give us this straight, man.
Yeah, and then let's not forget your experience last night with your mage. We did a couple of dungeons, and Flame got stuck forever.
Oh yeah. I
forgot about that.
Yeah. I think
that was only for Draenor.
Yes, I think Stan posted a screenshot. Draenor just crashed.
The server.
Just the whole server. Like if you had tunes on Draenor, bye. I had to just log into a different tune.
Yeah, it was.
But it's pre-patch.
The pre-patch, exactly.
It's when the hype is fat, when the hype is hot, is when you want players to... The launch of the pre-patch, the launch of the pre-patch event, the launch of the game are usually moments of high intense hype that you want to use to grab the player in. It's like, listen, dude, this is gonna be cool. Here's a little taste, right? Those are very sensitive times in the cycle of, the content and receive an expansion. Whenever it's fucking like this, then you're like... Because a lot of players are like, dude, I wanted to come back, but when I saw this, fuck that, I'm going back to Final Fantasy. I mean, you're losing players. You're losing those players.
Again, totally unacceptable. And I will underline this. This pre-patch, apart from the warbands, which kind of worked fine for the most part, for me at least, it was pretty much streamlined.
The bank is still bugged.
Oh, the bank, but I'm not using the bank currently.
Yeah, the transmogs, the reputation, was still
sure, but everything. So there wasn't like this big broken feature. Like remember when we had pre-patch for Legion, even for BFA. They were not perfect, but they were not this buggy.
Dude,
and those had systems, dude. Those were like big systems, like
that too. Plus, the Legion pre-patch had combat rogue switch to outlaw.
And also that
survival become a melee spec, so it's not like they were simple things, right? No. Things changed drastically in those as well, and I think we had some talents probably, I don't remember, and Demon Hunters were added. In the pre-patch, you could play Havoc Demon Hunter, right? Yes, so it was a pretty big pre-patch.
Yes, sir, and it was smooth as butter, Legion. BFA was a little bit rocky. I cannot remember Shadowlands pre-patch, but I don't remember being that buggy, to be honest.
No, I don't think so.
This is for the first time in history that we've played the game that it was a pre-patch so messy, and once again without that super big ass feature as it was in previous expansions. So it goes to show that you cannot really, and it's weird because they have so many more people working on the game. Listen, I have a tinfoil hat theory here. I feel like some of the quality of the people they're hiring there is not as good as it used to be.
I said the exact same thing today on stream.
Really? Great minds think alike.
I think the problem is, because we don't know for sure, so we might be totally wrong.
Speculation.
But we have seen this in the gaming industry, we have seen this in the Hollywood industry, we've said it today on stream as well, is there's probably a dissonance between hiring competence versus hiring quotas or diversity hires or anything like that, where they're trying to fill in they're tick some boxes, right? Which, whatever, fair. But whenever you're prioritizing other aspects over competence, over skill, you probably have something like this. Because after a point, we have to say, listen, Blizzard is a very, very big company acquired by an even bigger company, and you cannot have rookie intern mistakes like these. You cannot have like, oh, fuck, we didn't update the talents. Just tell them that we wanted this the whole time.
Yeah, I think the team that handles the deployment of these builds, and most of them are engineers. I don't know, man. It just feels that although they have like a bigger team right now, it's in some areas of the game it seems that some people are messing up, or
I'm pretty sure they're well intended and people really mean to do really good at the game, but after a while it's a product and we're paying for the product. We have to have a cold approach to it.
Yes. Now, big announcement. We're going to Gamescom.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be at Gamescom. We're going to stream from Gamescom. We're going to be each and every day over there, all over the place. So if you, well, we have a lot of German folks. I don't know how many of the German folks are going to Gamescom, but if by chance you're from Cologne, in Köln area. Cologne
I think it's Cologne, Germany.
Cologne, Germany, yeah. And you wind up around Gamescom, or if you're there and want to grab a beer or something, hit us up. We'll be there all day long, except for Thursday evening. We'll have some things to do on Thursday evening. But other than that, all day long, it's going to be Flame there, myself, and Mokti as well, filming stuff, talking to people, to developers, to whatever. Going to get some information and some nice, I would say, vlogs from there.
Hopefully.
The most of the videos from the Gamescom event are going to be on the Marcelian&Flame channel, so you won't miss out on too much. We're planning on doing a lot of vlogs from what's happening over there. We're putting it in it, and hopefully some not ready to talk about right now things that.
I mean, you have to see it for what it is. Gamescom overlaps with the release of The War Within, and Blizzard is going to be there, obviously. So there has to be something.
Something will happen there.
Something related to WoW, because they're not having BlizzCon this year.
Yeah, we're not having BlizzCon, and remember we talked about Gamescom. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago on what the hell they could show or announce or whatever.
Yeah, we had a video on it.
So we don't know what's going to be there, but whatever it is, your boys are going to be live, and you're going to see both the reactions and the discussions and everything around it when it happens, all right? So when War Within launches, we're going to be away. It's going to be weird. But once again, if you are coming to Gamescom, or you're living in Cologne and want to meet up and have a chat, have a beer or whatever, we're going to be there from Wednesday the 21st up until Sunday the 25th. We're going to leave on Monday the 26th. We're not going to have too much time to chat on Monday. But we're basically there for 5 days. So if you're there from any other part of the world, or if you're from Germany and from Cologne and want to meet up at Gamescom, or you don't have to come at Gamescom, we can because I don't think we can go to a pub or something or whatever.
I guess there's probably something to do there.
If just let us know. We're going to do some announcement on Discord as well, because if there are people interested on doing a little meetup and grabbing a beer, this is the perfect time to do so. All the people that are from Germany and people that are coming to Gamescom, everybody. Everybody's going to be there. There's going to be other WoW content creators as well, but we know for sure World of Warcraft will have a big stage, and Diablo's going to have a big stage. I am very excited to play Spiritborn, but that's a different discussion. All in all, we're super excited. This is the first time it's happening. It's one of my biggest dreams of all time.
For sure.
BlizzCon was first. Okay, Gamescom has kind of lost its reputation a bit, because it's you think there's only people like us there, but not. There's a lot of Instagram influencers and TikTokers and shit like that, and there's a lot of business shit, but it's still Gamescom. There's still a lot of games. Microsoft is going to be there with all of their studios, including Blizzard, and for us, the biggest interest being World of Warcraft and Diablo.
Diablo for less. We have a Diablo channel.
There are other things as well. Plus, it's Gamescom. It's like the biggest gaming convention in Europe. E3 is not being a thing anymore, so the best, I guess...
Isn't it kind of like the biggest in the world at this point?
Yeah, because E3 is not a thing anymore. So hopefully we're going to see some of you over there in person, chatting and having a laugh. And if not, we're just gonna report from there as a good news boys anchor. Whatever.
We've been waiting for something like this for a very long time. I'm so excited. I keep forgetting that we're going there as content creators. I'm like, I want to see all of this stuff. I want to see all the action, all the announcements. But it's gonna be really cool, and I'm so curious what they have to do with the wall panels and everything like that.
Yeah. Did I mention we're gonna stream?
Yes.
I think Friday. So Friday is going to be the streaming slot for us. Sometime during Friday we're gonna stream. We don't know when the announcements will be. So this is they usually the big announcements or the big moments are during the weekend, like when the Gamescom opens up for everybody. Because we're gonna be there during the week. When there's a lot of peer-to-peer, whatever, press conferences and all of that. shenanigans. I don't know how much that is open to like everybody, but I think the biggest things are going to happen on Saturday, and you can bet your ass your boys gonna be there. We're gonna chat it out and geek out and be hyped, and man, we're gonna have a good time. So hopefully we're gonna share that good time with some of you folks up there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Shall we go into comments?
Yeah,
I think we smoked this one pretty.
Yeah, we're like only an hour and 13 minutes in. Yeah, it's pretty much all the big things that happened have been laid out with the obvious avoidance of the DK nerfs, because we've assumed those were gonna happen. But yeah, if you have any like questions or anything like that, fire them up in the chat. We're gonna try to get to as many as we can. I think.
Do we have Arja on the job here?
Arja, if she caught anything so far.
Maybe she was sleeping, man. We have no questions.
Oh, she's in chat. She's vibing. Oh, thank you, Brad, for the 23 months, buddy. Appreciate it. I'm
Brad,
just
love you.
catching up.
Yeah, if we have some subs or whatever.
Yeah, and
let's
XX Storm Rage for 4 months as well. Thank you so much for the Prime, buddy. And I think that's it. Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool. Make sure we know we don't leave anybody out. How about those comments, huh?
All right. Well, let's pick up some questions. Let's see. Oh, this is big. All right.
Big
A hunter question. Auburn dad for life. So did they buff or fix BM yet? Actually, there were no BM.
There was no BM changes, but was BM broken?
Well, I've played BM. No, it's terrible. I was doing no damage, and I just had one of those moments, dude. Do I suck at Beastmaster, or is there a problem here? And I don't think that has been addressed whatsoever. I mean, not publicly. I don't know if they fixed it and didn't, post it. If there's like unannounced stuff.
They would have posted for BM, I'm sure. They didn't touch it. That
for sure.
Basically. So sorry, BM hunters. Nothing yet. Probably next week. Hopefully.
Okay. Mage Omni. Mage now broken. The nerf will be hard from hell.
Well, it's hard to compare broken to what. If you mean pre-patch, it's not broken at all. If you mean beta, it's hard to compare. Like, what is the normality for the damage numbers? This is because we cannot. You see big numbers on mages, you see big number on DKs, you've seen big numbers on, well, specifically frost DKs and stuff. We don't know if that's the normalized version of it, because you have to like put that versus what's happening within the dungeon. What's the damage profile of the dungeon? How much damage are you taking versus how much damage are you dealing? And this also has to be paired up with the healing nerfs and the tank nerfs. And again, you cannot really make an assumption right now. So I don't think Mage is broken, because I don't know what to compare it to yet.
So remember when we did that Grimbatol +4 and I tanked on Pro Paladin, we barely timed it, and we didn't really fuck up almost at all. We probably had like 2 or 3 deaths, if I recall. So in terms of like our damage versus the timer, we were pretty close to failing. It was a +4, right? And we were like geared to, as probably what you would expect for like a +4. I think we had like Mythic plus gear, like low level Mythic
scaled
plus.
to like Heroic?
It scales to Heroic Dungeon at like Mythic 2, and probably a little bit above that at +4. But even so, like with that gear on live in the same key level, we would like smoke it. So the damage was just about, right? So we're probably going to see more buffs to a lot of other specs to kind of raise the bar across the board for the damage output.
This was my point. So until you will start to see more specs being brought up, I doubt they're going to be huge nerfs to mages.
Yeah. All right. Has Mage had more changes, adjustments than every other class combined?
Yes.
Not than every other class, but it definitely. No. I think we didn't touch the Shaman ones. Shamans had pretty big changes as well. I mean, a lot of things being addressed, not big, game-changing changes, but once again, just adjustments and buffs and nerfs here and there to just bring the spec close to the other ones. All right, let's see. For Rogue, very sticky rice, still not enough for Rogues. Yeah, that's pretty much what Marcelian said as well.
I don't feel it's enough, but it's good. So this is what I was mentioning earlier when talking about the Mage. You see underperforming specs like the Rogues getting bumped up slowly but surely. But again, I don't care about any buffs right now until they make the actual specs work properly. This is why I was stressing out, the Killing Spree bug for Outlaws and the Coup de Grace for Trickster. That's just shitty, and it doesn't feel right. Plus, there's a bunch of other bugs that they need to fix as well. Up until they don't get those ironed out, I don't really care that much for the numbers. Listen, At some point in season one, all specs, maybe one or two will just miss to the cracks, but all specs will probably do good if you play them right.
Yeah.
Overall, when you see buffs like 10% this, and this and that, it's okay because it's incremental and it's better this way as opposed to just buffing like what they did with Fel Scared Havoc, where you seen like buff to 100% or something like that.
We've had buffs like that. Like we didn't touch those today as well, but remember like 2 weeks ago we touched on Warlock Soul Conduit being buffed for Affliction and Destruction.
I remember.
They've reverted that whole buff back to exactly how it was before, right?
Ping ponging the shit out of them.
So when you have big buffs like that, there might be just a little bit too much.
Big buffs, and I cannot lie. But no, seriously, I don't know. I like the incremental one. So 10%, and then
getting closer to where you need instead of like just going over the mark completely.
Sure.
A rogue question for you, because you're more of the rogue than I am. Why is every rogue spec being forced to play around stealth when that's more of a subtlety thing? Which I kind of disagree, but I'll let you actually talk about it.
Well, it's kind of like the rogue, so you have to start from the class. Rogue is like fantasy-wise, well, it kind of depends, to be honest, because not all rogues are wielding daggers or whatever. Some of them are, yeah. But in terms of WoW, starting with the class, it was always that fantasy of attacking when the enemy is not knowing. So starting from a fantasy point of view, the inception, the foundation was there regardless of any spec whatsoever. Now, when you go into specs, okay, so an assassin kind of wants to attack from the stealth, so he has to have some bonuses from because he attacks from stealth. It's kind of like they wanted to separate the identities, which was pretty hard between assassination and subtlety, to be honest. But they kind of nailed it. Now, being forced to play into stealth, it's kind of like part of it, man. I mean, I don't know if it's a complaint of yours or whatever. Subtlety isn't the only one who gets to be played in that fantasy. Subtlety is all about, tactics, maneuvering, and building up to something. Assassin is being able to, not surprise, but attack from stealth and being deadly with, what is it, a garrote, because garrote is an ability. I think that's like the biggest buff you get from assassination.
Garrote essentially assumes stealth, because you have to be behind the target,
Exactly, and that's the name of the ability. Now, for Outlaw, you can make that argument. I can
and it's not really that big. Stealth is just like an enabler, but
it is. I mean, it is part of. So this is why when it was first created in WoW, a rogue was described as a stealth warrior, whatever, assassin, and it had to make use of that mechanic.
You know what I think about when I think about Outlaw, as ironic it would be because of the name, I think of Assassin's Creed. Because the dude plays a lot with going against
Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
That was with I played a whole bunch. I actually didn't play that one, but that even more so. But you're basically Outlaw assumes you're the kind of rogue that just is an outlaw, but you probably get lost in the crowd when you're running from the authorities. You have to get lost in the crowd, so there's some stealthiness involved there as well as disappearing from action, because the rogue is basically engage and disengage from combat. So
listen, you can make an argument for Outlaw not being the one to actually be too dependent on stealth, and it's not. Outlaw isn't that dependent in stealth, especially because Shadow Dance is gone from it as well. Apart from like opening up with ambush on Outlaw, there's not much.
Don't you have to use like the 2 charges of Vanish now to play Hidden Opportunity?
There's all of that, but you can basically you can basically transform that into different talents or different mechanics whatsoever. I can see it as an argument for Outlaw, but for Assassination and Subtlety, I feel stealth mechanics are part of their get-go, and me personally, for playing Rogue for so long, I would feel weird to not have any stealth-based mechanic for both of these specs. For Outlaw, I would be fine.
All right. Regarding pre-patch, Percy said the only pre-patch event that was worse was the Wrath one, but that was because of the player base of the game.
That was the epidemic. With the plague, yeah. But that was cool, though. That was like an interesting experiment. I don't know. It felt, it was frustrating. I gotta say, I was dead for many days in Stormwind, but it was.
Oh, is that how it was? I know
it was. It was Wrath of the Lich King with the disease thing, where everybody was zombified.
I know. actually studies have been using that as a an
But
experiment
I
on
don't
how
know. I don't know if it's for that or for the other one from the Kazakh dude, the Kazakh world boss.
no, Kazakh, that was something else. Wasn't that how they? That was
No,
something else?
no, no. It was from Zul'Gurub, I believe. That bleed thing that you would carry on a hunter's pet and you would to throw it in. I think that was the study for it, but I'm not sure.
Oh, all right.
Regardless, the pre-patch for Wrath, and I agree with Percy, but back then it felt cool.
Yeah.
As much as first
It's
Fate,
as
it felt
accurate
cool.
as a plague from the Scourge would be, I guess.
Yeah, it was in theme. This shit is not in theme. This is
Yeah.
what's happening here, like the war within, broken.
All right. From Mew Roar Moo, so you're playing a druid, I guess. I was wondering why all my action bars were turned off. I think we covered that in the pre-patch issue. That's exactly one of the issues that we've
and
had.
that has no explanation, so no excuse whatsoever. A lot of people had that. Hopefully, you didn't have your keybinds messed up as well.
Yeah, that was the worst
A
one.
lot of people had that.
Okay, Casey Sockcock.
Sockcock?
I didn't finish. I see what you did there.
You naughty
naughty,
boy.
naughty. Blizz preemptively deleted my outlaw by wiping out all my spells. And oh shit!
Oh my god!
This is exactly what
oh
we
my
were
god!
talking about.
Oh, you're one of those. I'm so sorry, man.
Oh, well, it's basically Blizz telling you to play Mage. That's clear. I mean, you have no chance to play Outlaw in the War Within. Clear as day.
I'm sorry, man. You keep to your outlaw. I'm sure outlaw's gonna be fine, but do those keybinds again, and complain on the forums. They need to hear it.
Life Proof is basically reaffirming what we've said concerning the pre-patch issues. Yeah, especially when you pay for the game, you pay for the subscription. On top of that, you get microtransaction. It's crazy. It's way too many layers of monetizing the game where you don't really have an excuse to not have the product working as intended at the very least.
No.
It's no longer an issue of like, but do they have the manpower and the money to do all of it?
No, there's no excuse or argument in the world that could make it better. This is totally unacceptable at this point in WoW's history. No fucking way. I'm sorry. So we've covered this.
Yeah. Laurie Mulinac says, this is what happens when you downsize and don't keep enough employees, but they have mostly has issues with expansions in the past. I don't think this is the case anymore.
No, they haven't downsized. They actually upsized. And it's, I think they started doing this since the
end of Shadowlands?
Since Quartia, yeah. They have like, right now, they have like the biggest team they ever had in history. So there's definitely a lot more people. I think the problem is, like we talked earlier, don't want to sound like a broken record, I think the problem is the quality of those people. I don't think all of the people that got into the WoW team, well, in this case, more of in the engineering team, the people that are in charge with, deploying builds and making sure everything is being properly moved from database to, client to client. It's a whole mess there. I don't think the quality of those people is the best, because after 20 years, if this shit happens on a pre-patch, which doesn't have like a game-breaking feature, like you had like all of the spec reworks in Legion and the new spec added, like you had with the Azurites and everything in BFA, and I'm not going to go through it again, but in terms of like downsides, no.
I know
they upsized it.
It might sound like it's tangential, but it's not.
Tangential.
The Diablo 4 had the exact same issue, right? And we've actually seen this live where they've done dev videos with people that actually had no idea what the game was, how it was played.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's not that disconnected from the issue, because it's like right there under the overall the same umbrella, which probably dictates to HR exactly what kind of.
It dictates. It doesn't dictate. Hello.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that was an issue for WoW as well. We just don't get to see it in the same way that we did. And we know how that turned out for Diablo 4 and what changes the game had to go to be what it is today if you've been keeping your eyes peeled for it.
But don't get it twisted. WoW's team hasn't been downsized. It's
also, interesting, I was going to point this out, but I'm glad Arja snipped this out. Rulem says, Final Fantasy XIV somehow pulls it off without testing.
I know that discussion, so I'm not very versatile in Final Fantasy. What I do know is, first of all, their engine is much newer than WoW, first of all. And second of all, they don't have the same amount of database numbers as WoW does. You have to remember, WoW went through, how do I explain this? If you think about Preach's video when he explained how RNG works, and you multiply that with all of the expansions that we had, even with number crunching and everything, it would be astronomically further away from Final Fantasy. I believe Final Fantasy 14 was initially launched in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Then it was rebooted when it was rebooted. So you're talking about an engine that was developed and improved, mind you, in 2004, and then you have an engine that was launched in 2012 and then rebooted. The amount of database, first of all, is way bigger in World of Warcraft. On top of that, I don't know how many systems Final Fantasy has in terms of like its classes, and I know it's really huge on story, and this is why they're not PTR testing, because their whole shtick is around the story. But in terms of like, WoW always had this mechanical side going for it. The classes feel good. The abilities feel meaty, impactful. Everything has, this
way more technical.
Juicy, yes. And this requires a lot more numbers to be processed, as opposed to Final Fantasy, where I do see a lot of animation, I do see a lot of colors. I'm not sure that we can compare these two in terms of like the overload on databases and also the overload on features. You have to remember all of the features that were introduced in the past expansions in WoW are still there. They haven't been erased.
Sure, we can probably dive into the nitty gritty and get lost in the sauce. They're
I
very
can
different.
geek out in this shit forever, dude.
They're very different companies. Sure, they have very different engines. Sure, but after a point, you have to kind of find the common ground, which is they're both big MMOs. They're the biggest MMOs on the market, and if one of them can do it, surely. Final Fantasy has a different database, but WoW is bigger, has a bigger team, bigger.
Oh yeah. There's no excuse.
Bigger cash moolah. So possibilities are there. They're probably not prioritizing as much as they should, because there's the thing that like sometimes they forget how big they are. If they forget.
I'm not trying to find excuses. I'm just saying, like, how does Final Fantasy do it? Well, that's why.
There's
a lot less things they have to worry about as opposed to WoW.
We have a question from Shwamugurk. What do you say about DK nerfs? Justified or too harsh? I think. So the DK nerfs are mostly towards Deathbringer, from what I was able to see, where they've tuned down the damage of Exterminate that I have also tested and was doing a lot of damage.
It was too much. Deathbringer was too much. It was expected, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. And I think I said it, they're probably going to keep on nerfing Deathbringer up until they're going to have like all the level playing fields getting
for sure.
Yeah,
So it was.
I don't feel it was too much.
As a hero talent, it was too big of a part of my overall damage breakdown. So I'm not actually surprised whatsoever, considering the amount of overall damage that Unholy and Frost were doing compared to all the other specs. The nerfs are not that big. They're probably less than the nerfs Arcane got when Arcane was overpowering the meta, like a month ago or something like that. So I think DK is like way better. But we'll see how it evolves, of course. When will they buff priest healers? They are the weakest healers by far. I don't know if they
didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way as Discipline. Sometimes I feel like that on Holy, but that was very at the beginning, very early on, so I cannot really tell. But Discipline felt fine.
Yeah, prior to the Druid buffs, Resto Druid I think was one of the weakest healers, and they did buff Resto Druid. So if there's a problem with priest throughput, I assume that they were going to be addressing that eventually as well. I don't know if the problem is that big. I know Holy is keeping up somehow. I haven't seen that many disciplines though, so.
It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I can tell you, playing Discipline, a couple of dungeons, it felt okay. Didn't feel like Giga amazing, but it didn't feel weak either. Like if you know what you're doing, you're gonna be fine. So.
Right, now we can get to some of the last ones in chat. Are the buffs live? No, these are, well, they're live on the beta. They're not live on the pre-patch, and likely the pre-patch is going to stay in this version up until the release. So all of the changes that you will see to classes in terms of buffs, nerfs, talent changes, anything like that, is probably going to only happen at the release of the expansion. I don't think they're gonna handle both builds in parallel. And
just expect pre-patch to be crazy with numbers. Some specs are going to be broken. Some specs are going to be shit, and that's how every pre-patch is. Don't make nothing out of it. Do not make decisions based on what you see on pre-patch, please.
At the very most, they're probably going to hopefully fix some bugs because my mage is bugged and I kind of
the
don't want
bugs are a different story.
It's still a month and I just don't feel like playing the pre-patch for a month, and I'm pretty sure everybody that has these types of bugs feel the same way, and you don't really want your player base to be like, I just don't feel like playing for a month. Not in a pre-patch that's supposed to actually make me want to play for the next month. I think we're pretty much done. If anybody has any other questions, now's the time before we wrap it up. And
any recent ones in the chat by now?
Yeah, I'm scheming. There's some convos going on that I cannot keep track of between people, and that's fine. Listen, overreaction is pretty nice, The Havoc buffs are enough to get into a better position. I missed the part you guys talked about it. The buffs are needed. I don't know exactly.
Fel Scared needed.
Yeah, Fel Scared was definitely behind. It's definitely putting it in a better position. We don't know. Better is very relative. We don't know what better is. It's definitely going to do more damage. Now, is it going to do more damage than Eldrachi? Is it going to do equivalent damage to it? Is it going to do equivalent damage to DKs now? We don't know exactly. We're going to have to test it out. Maybe we'll get it tomorrow on stream as well, so you can catch us live. Or, there's a lot of other people playing Havoc as well that you can see. But what you can actually take home and be reassured is that on the release, if you're not playing the beta, or even the pre-patch for that matter, on release you're probably going to be fine playing any of the Havoc hero talents.
Yeah, and again, you have nothing to compare to, really. So we don't have like this barometer of, this is the amount of damage that every spec should do. We don't know that just yet because there's too many factors in it. So the fact that you're seeing buffs to Fel Scared, I think that's a positive. Cannot really make a decision if it's going to be enough.
Yeah, we'll see. That always happens. And if you've paid attention to patch cycles for Dragonflight, as it was a live expansion, you saw how many tunings have been done.
We're going to have tuning in Season 1, my friends. If we keep on forgetting that, we're going to have tuning after the raid launches.
KRML says, we appreciate you. Appreciate you too, buddy.
Oh, we appreciate you more. How about that?
There's a question from Tiny. For you, since you, Flame, never answered me except calling me a troll, maybe Marcelian will. He says, main suggestions, and why is it Arms Warrior?
Okay. main suggestions for Tiny?
Yeah, for Tiny.
Tiny's going to play his Mage all day long. I know it.
Tiny needs to tank.
He needs to tank?
Yeah, so he can join our groups with Paravel, right? So he can do some dungeons.
Yes, that's a good point. Well, I don't know if he's a troll or not, but warrior, like for real?
I don't know about Arms, but I will give the devils his due. Fury has surprised me, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised at how good Slayer Fury felt. It felt as I thought it would feel, being a spec focused around the...
No. See, Tiny needs to play Boomkin. I want to see him playing Boomkin.
He's a Boomkin player, man.
I know. Why don't you play Boomkin, Tiny? Keep on fighting the good fight. Play that good.
Yeah,
Abomination.
it's exactly. But no, I think with Fury actually became, you would love Slayer Fury. You actually have probably more cooldowns than actual buttons.
I played it.
You didn't play this one.
Yeah, true. But I'm already kind of focused on a couple of specs now. I don't want any warrior in my life. So I don't know if you're trolling or not, but if you're gonna play warrior, please play warrior and try out some protection warrior. It's gonna be great.
As much as we're not dooming it. It's just unchanged. It's the same, but it's gonna be really strong. I would expect.
Since we're all kind of like DPSs now in our group, there's
a lack of non-DPS agents.
Play warrior, my friend. Totally not selfish here. Why would you call him a troll because of that?
I didn't call him. Because we basically have the same opinions on Boomkin and Arms Warrior because we both played both of those specs, and he was asking me why should I play Arms Warriors. You shouldn't not.
Play prop.
All right. Should I go prop alley? 100%. Go for it, RJ. It's your spec. But I think
we're wrapping it up.
I think we're wrapping it up. Yeah, it was a good run. We covered most of it.
We covered everything. So most of this is all of this is going to go on YouTube, Marcelian Online YouTube directly, the full VOD. It's not going to be on Twitch, but if you don't want to hear about all of the ramblings, you're going to have the channel Marcelian&Flame, where you're going to have clips, and the juicy ones are going to end up on the big channel as well. and you want to be subscribed to the Marcelian&Flame channel, I believe it's youtube.com/@Marcelian&Flame because there you're gonna see all of the Gamescom lovely
all the news and all the
events
stuff.
and vlogs, reactions, live shit. Everything is going to be there. Apart from some things which are not confirmed yet, but who knows? Hopefully,
we'll see.
maybe we're praying that we're gonna get on the main channel.
If you're watching this on YouTube, our YouTube channel is connected to the Marcelian&Flame, so you can find the way to get there. And if you're watching this on Twitch, !channel, we'll give you the link to our second channel, so you can actually go and watch stuff there now.
you better
And
watch it.
we will catch you guys tomorrow with some beta testing with the new affix, testing some of the class changes as well, some of the Havoc changes, some of the Mage changes and all of that. And we're gonna be having some fun and trashing the affix because they all suck. They will suck a little bit.
Thank you everybody for joining, for chatting, for subscribing, following, all of that. We love all of you. Thank you, Arja, for helping out with the comments and doing the community management thing, whatever that is. And we shall catch you next week, tomorrow, with Flame on his stream or whatever. Have a good evening, have a good morning, have a good whatever you want.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Here comes the button. Here comes the button.
Bye-bye. He has buttons and he likes to press buttons. All right.